everyone, Spammer D here, and welcome back to Infinite Combo Reviews. So, a while back, I took a look at the Famicom exclusive Zyurangers, which, for those of you not in the know, is the Super Sentai that the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers spawned from here in the States. Now, I'd link you to that video, but watching it again, yeah, it kinda sucks. So I'm not gonna. But it was in this rewatch that I found my past self saying, and I quote, which is really weird because I'm quoting myself here. Everyone, Ranger fan or Sentai fan, go check out Jetman because it's awesome. End quote. And very overzealous quote. Oh, past me. That's so adorable. Clearly, you must have been dramatized. Oh, crap. Maybe I should look into that. But after having played the garbage that was Zyurangers, I don't blame you, past self. But to happily express that Jetman was awesome? Well, I believe it's time to set the record straight. And to be blunt, Jetman is not awesome. But it's not bad either. That part of my review was on point. Released a year prior to the Zyurangers game, which is still 3 years after Mario 3, mind you, Jetman is definitely the superior title. But that's not really saying much. In the grand scheme of things, Jetman is actually about as average as they come, even for the time, which has done very little to help it stand out all these years later. But honestly, it still deserves your attention. The game actually makes a pretty strong start with an admittedly awesome intro if you give it a few seconds. With a cutscene of the Jetman Megazords, the Jet Icarus, and the Jet Garuda combining together to form the Great Icarus. Because giant robots fusing together, that's always cool. And all while a glorious 8-bit rendition of the Jetman theme song rocks out in the background. You don't have to have nostalgia or even be a Sentai fan to get a kick out of this. In fact, the music in this game rocks. Period. It might not be the most memorable, but it's still action-packed and it's just really good. Moving on, the main menu opens up allowing you to pick between easy and normal. Now, remember that for later, and then the game begins. You have 5 levels to choose from in that classic Megaman style, with the 6th and final level becoming available once you've beaten those. Though it hardly matters which order you pick them in, as they don't actually give you anything to help you beat other stages. So don't take that Megaman comparison too literally. But it's not like we're without options. Once you pick your stage, you get to pick your... oh crap, what do they call individual Sentai members? Whatever. You get to pick your Ranger. And what's nice is that the Rangers all play differently. Mostly. 2 of the Rangers have guns, 2 of the Rangers have swords, and the last one uses a gauntlet. The amount of damage they do does vary a bit, and honestly, I think the other advantages should pretty much speak for themselves. The interesting bit though, is that when you die, you lose the Ranger that you were controlling. Kinda like the first NES TMNT game. Though I doubt you'll end up dying on the default settings, at least when you're playing as a Ranger. Again, let's keep that in the back of our minds for later. The main game is divided up into 2 major parts. The first part is a standard action platformer. You take control of your Ranger and you fight your way to the end of the stage. There's not much to complain about here. The controls are tight, which makes jumping and attacking very responsive for when you have to react to enemies and projectiles. Honestly, the only odd bit is that the pause button is select and your special attack is the start button. Which is a bit confusing, but it's really not that big of a deal. Graphically, the game looks fine, for the most part. I mean, this is during the NES era. Though with how far the screen is pulled back and how undetailed and small the Rangers look, the game actually reminds me more of the Game Boy games. It even plays a lot like the handheld Power Ranger games. Run up to an enemy and smack them till they're dead, then move on. Still, at least it doesn't look as awkward as the Rangers in Zyurangers do. So you win some, you lose some. Each of the Ranger stages are pretty short, only going until you reach the big bad of the level. And honestly, I think this part is one of the game's most egregious missteps, as you don't actually get to fight the monster as the Rangers themselves. You know, like they do in the show? Because with such solid controls, the ability to choose your ranger, plus a special move that you can save until the end, that would have made for some great fights. But at least you still do get to fight them, as the Great Icarus Megazord. If you skip the game's intro, this is where you'll once again get to see the awesomeness of the Megazords coming together. The Megazord fights make up the second half of the game, and just aesthetically speaking, I'm 50-50 on these two. On one hand, the monsters and the Great Icarus look awesome. 8-bit sprite work really showing what it can do. But on the other hand, where are the backgrounds at? Seriously now, where are they? I want to see buildings in the backgrounds getting destroyed. I mean, this is basically a giant kaiju battle, more or less. Hell, let's get Godzilla in there. This is Japan. Yeah, screw Godzilla versus King Kong. I want to see Godzilla versus the Power Rangers. But hey, regardless, at least you get to fight as the Zords in this one. Zyurangers. Power Rangers the movie on SNES. Now, if you've ever played a fighting game before, you'll know just from looking at the layout how these fights go down. More or less, it's what you'd expect, because it's pretty basic. I mean, there's not that many buttons. One is for punch, one is for the jump that I never used, and block is down. This is also when I figured out that start is the special attack, as my foes kept hitting me with specials and I just couldn't figure out how to do mine. No quarter circle A here. So I started pressing all the buttons until I figured it out. Though it's not that you really need them all that much. Once you get the hang of it, the bosses are pretty easy. And even if you're struggling against them, the game offers up a battle mode where you can fight against all of them, excluding the end boss. The best part of this is the Chibi Zords popping up when you win or lose. Aw, now see, that just makes me feel all happy inside. Now I found that you can basically just pin them against the wall and you've pretty much won. With the exception of the final boss, which is rightfully so. And it's against said boss that I figured out that dying against the boss does send you back to the start of the stage. Though you don't lose a ranger for it. But still, with infinite continues, it's not really a problem. And even if you didn't have those, the game is super easy, which being for kids, I assume, makes sense. But where does that leave us in this day and age? Taking roughly 20 to 30 minutes to beat, I can't imagine anyone except hardcore Sentai fans really being interested in this one. Except for one other reason. Let's go ahead and pull out that opening menu we saved earlier. Upon beating the game, you get a code that unlocks the hard and very hard modes, similar to how it does in Kirby's Dream Land. Except in Kirby, it just ups the difficulty for a nice additional challenge. Jetman, on the other hand, cranks the dial up past 10. Yeah, on these difficulties, during the Ranger half of the game, one-hit KOs. One-hit KOs as far as the eye can see. So yeah, there's your challenge. Each level you do has to be a perfect run, though you still have continues and the level select, so it is doable. But does that really make the game worth a recommendation? I mean, if you're a gamer looking for a new challenge, or a YouTuber trying to find some untapped material for Let's Plays, I'd say here you go. But otherwise, this game is kind of a tough sell, at least if you really want a physical cart. The fact is, however, that Jetman is a pretty solid title that I did enjoy. Though I wouldn't say it's awesome, that's a pretty high bar. But that being said, it's still pretty good. The music is good, the controls are tight, the graphics are fine, and I'll concede that the Megazords coming together is awesome. And the gameplay does have some variety to it. But unfortunately, it's hard to get past the fact that it's just so average. There's really nothing here that helps it stand out, neither then nor now. And oddly, as I said before, it actually feels a lot more like an early Game Boy game than a Famicom or NES title. Plus, it's way too short. If you're playing on easy or normal, you can beat the game in under a half an hour. So unless you're really looking for what is really a self-imposed challenge, the hard mode will probably be your only saving grace. But here's the thing, this game came out over 20 years ago. Yeah, feeling old? And since Nickelodeon wasn't smart enough to capitalize on Super Mega Force using the Jetman costumes to basically find some way to re-release this game in some shape or form in the US, maybe as a web game or something like that, well then I'd say it's their loss and your gain. Which is to say, if you're a huge Sentai fan, just really like old school platform action games, or just have a good 30 minutes to spare on a short but solid title, well, then maybe being a Gokai Ranger isn't so bad.